is good.
You're great. Just don't be afraid to get real close.
All right, how's this?
It's great.
Can you hear me? I'm whispering.
I can hear you.
All right, now where do I go? I'm on the
Go to. You should see it coming through. If you go back, then come forward. You'll see it as a live, and we're live. We're live now. We're live now. So you should have it. You got it, Q?
No.
You should see live broadcast on the page. Live now. Bueller.
Hold on.
Bueller.
Hold on, Jay. It went back to the home page.
Just type in my name in the search bar. I know that's gonna be a pain in the neck. Anyway, we are actually live, so we're recording. So I am live. What's up, American Merit? I am live right now with the one and only Yancey Harrington. You guys probably don't know him, but you're going to get to know him through this podcast. So I want to take a minute and thank the sponsors. What's up, Frank Smith? I want to thank KVAR.com. Everybody head over to KVAR. I want to thank KVAR.com for paying the bills here. I want to give a special thanks over to some of the other sponsors, Kenzie's, Taurus, of course, Crossbreed Holsters, everybody else out there that's always helped out with the podcast. We appreciate everybody. And I want to thank Yancey for coming in.
Thanks,
Pleasure
man.
to have you.
Great to be here.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's a lot of fun. So, Yancey came through today. This guy has an amazing background. We're going to get into some of this about his background. You guys are going to want to stick around. We're going to hear some of the stuff that Yancey's gotten into through the years. I read some of his file, and I got to say, I was blown the fuck away by some of the shit I read, and I don't get blown away that often. So, Yancey Harrington, where do we start?
Well, I was born a poor black child in New Mexico in 1963.
You're kidding me. Nobody's going to believe that. So I don't know where to start with you because much like my good friend Bruce Cardenas at Quest Bar, you have such a diverse background that people don't know anything about, and you've been operating behind the scenes of the 2A industry for such a long time. I look at you as like an industry insider. When I read your jacket, I was like, holy shit, this guy's done everything. So I want to take a minute and I want to kind of educate everybody on a little bit of some of the things you've done. Sure. You've spent some time in Russia growing up.
Yeah.
So take me back to that and how that happened and where we are.
Sure thing. And that can basically go back to the early 80s whenever I was in the Army. I was in the 82nd Airborne Division.
So it was USSR.
It was USSR, and it was the evil empire, and they were doing evil shit back then. And so I was reading all these books that I could find about Russia. I was a 13 Bravo and a 13 Fox, which means I was either a cannon crewman or I was forward with the infantry calling in artillery fire support for the maneuver units. Long story short, went to Grenada, Operation Urgent Fury, October of '83. Found a shit ton of Soviet stuff on that island. Got even more fascinated with Russia and Russian stuff and all that sort of thing. And I was reading these Tom Clancy books also, and I wanted to be the next Jack Ryan. I wanted to be that guy, And jumped to 1992. I was about midway through my education at the University of Arizona, studying Russian and Soviet studies with the full intent of going to the agency after I got done. Unfortunately, they weren't hiring at that time.
Right.
And the Soviet Union was collapsing. Or had already collapsed in December of 91. And so, shit, what am I going to do, man?
Right.
CIA isn't hiring. The agency isn't hiring. What's going on here? What am I going to do? Let's go on the commercial side of things. So I went on the commercial side of things. And at that point, Russia wasn't exactly making stuff for the civilian market anywhere on the planet. And so what did they make? Vodka, guns, and ammo. Okay, I'm not going to get into the vodka business, so I'm going to get into guns and ammo business. And that's what brought me to Russia.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's a crazy story. I know some of you guys are saying hi to Yancey. When I started to hear his story, it's funny he brings up Jack Ryan. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, holy shit. I'm going to be sitting with the real Jack Ryan here. So, you go through this period where you serve, and I believe it was 82nd Airborne?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So 82nd Airborne, and you're in Grenada, which is interesting enough. We could spend a whole podcast on that.
Right.
And you're in the military at a period, a lot of people don't realize this, that early to mid 80s, that Cold War ending period, if I'm correct,
Right.
was, really at the height of a lot of that funky activity.
lots of tension. The Cold War was getting close to being a hot war, and Grenada was the closest that it got. I mean, it got hot. A lot of folks always say, well, what'd you do down in Grenada, knock over a fruit stand?
Right.
Well, there's about 18 guys that didn't come back from that operation, and a good friend of mine lost both of his legs down there.
Wow.
Navy A-7 rolled in on the house that we were occupying and shot it up, and I got to witness that, and it was, to this day, I see it in my head almost every day.
Sure.
But it's like it was a tough enough operation. It wasn't they weren't a pushover down there.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody should. I don't want to use the term mock, but I don't think anybody should, question anybody's level of service in anything. What do you think?
Absolutely, man. I mean, I was lucky. I was in a great unit. At the time, I thought it sucked. Looking back on it, hindsight, foresight, all that sort of stuff, it's like, man, I was lucky to be in that unit. I was lucky to be a part of something bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And do something bigger than myself. And I've done that a few times in life. I've been blessed by that.
Yeah, I mean, I joke all the time. I had the opportunity to play some sports and going on to college, and then after I was lucky enough to, I said, oh, geez, I don't ever want to wait in line to eat and be told when to go anywhere, and then I decided to go to the academy, and that was like the same thing over and over again, post college. So, I think as men we all crave that we want to be coached, right, and we want to train, and there's a lot of different types of training. Some people gravitate towards graphic design or video or other things that are creative. Some people it's physical. They want to do some type of physical training. Yeah. And you obviously spent a career, and I envy it in many ways because if you know anything about my background, I came up in the business training, with Dom Rosso, training with Tony at Real World Tactical. Mm-hmm. I've trained with all these different guys. I'm friends with Ray Kashka. I'm friends with some guys that, are out there. And I've been lucky and blessed to have these relationships and get to train and shoot guns. And obviously we both share a love for jiu-jitsu, so there's that. And, it's something that I think ingrained in some of us that we just love being coached. And I think training is really important.
Man, I can't stress that enough. A lot of folks, they buy the firearms. They do stuff. They go to Snap Fitness or something like that.
Right.
They're not exactly pushing themselves or being pushed. You want to learn hubris in your life? Take some jiu-jitsu classes.
Oh, God.
Have your ass handed to you.
We could spend an episode on that.
Dude, you can have your ass handed to you by a 16-year-old kid or a 65-year-old old man, which I'm only 10 years away from that, by the way.
Yeah.
I started this nonsense at 50. Who the fuck starts jiu-jitsu at 50?
What belt are you?
Blue.
Who do you train under?
I just switched schools. I was in Tucson, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Tucson BJJ, and I switched now over to Erie, Philip Aragon.
Yeah.
So I get my ass handed to me in the conditioning phase. Then we do some drills, and then we roll. And it's like I low crawl out of there.
So I started out at SBG, which is Conor McGregor's straight blast,
Right on.
That's where he got his training. Now I'm at 10th Planet. So one of the biggest things,
we got a 10 Planet down in Tucson.
So one of the biggest draws for me to come here, beyond having the opportunity to work with Arsenal and FIME and KVAR, and we'll get to that, was I had the opportunity to go to 10th Planet. And of course you have Couture out here, you have all the different gyms. But when I said, wow, I'm gonna go, my lineage will go from SBG to 10th Planet, you can't, everybody, it's kind of, everybody goes to a Gracie. It's, that's become like the Kmart. No, I don't want to say Kmart. I'm sorry, Ivandro. I'm sorry, Henner. So, it's become like everybody goes to a Gracie.
Right.
I wanted to go somewhere that was innovating and changing the game. Right. And 10th Planet represented game-changing training. And I tell everybody this, and I've had the opportunity, I grew up right near SIG, so I grew up training at SIG. Great instruction there. I grew up training all over, and shooting is one piece, Yancey.
Yes, one piece. You might know how to employ every firearm on the planet, but if it turns into a wrestling match for the gun and trying to get domination or control the situation, and you don't know how to handle that game once it gets onto the ground or something like that, then it can turn into a complete shit
cluster.
it.
I think, and a lot of people fight and fuss, similar to the caliber debate. They fight and fuss over what is the best, fighting, craft. And I say to everybody the same thing. I say, a combination of boxing or striking, or maybe Muay Thai and Jiu-jitsu is going to be your best bet. And nobody's saying you have to go out and get a black belt. If you can, reach a second or third degree blue in each space, or at least get 5 years of good boxing under your belt, you're going to be pretty well equipped in life.
Absolutely.
To tackle 90% of what you encounter. And I think Joe said the same thing. I think that's going to be the combination. If you were a wrestler, you're obviously going to excel at jiu-jitsu a lot faster because you're used to the grappling techniques. Wrestlers like to yank, so you have to be careful rolling with them and training with them. I was a football player, so I love going through people. That's more my approach. That'll get you in trouble with arm bars and a lot of different techniques. But it'll give you strength, and when you learn how to frame properly, it'll give you a lot of good framing techniques. And if you can save those bursts of strength that you get from playing sports at a high level and deploy them at the right times during a role, you can be really good. Now, it's hard for me, and as I'm sure it is you, because I'm in that 225, 235 range finding good people to roll with. So it gets tricky, once you reach a blue belt or better, you can start to dominate some of those guys in the 160 and under, 170 and under. You can start to control them a little bit. And that goes up to brown in most cases, unless they're doing knee bars and leg locks, and that's where you get cooked.
Well, the deal is with me, it's the last time that I competed was as a white belt, and was up here in Vegas at the Worlds. And I had to literally, there was nobody in my weight class and nobody in my belt class and age group. So I had to check the box, I'll fight somebody younger, fight somebody lighter weight, or whatever. I ended up fighting this guy that was 20 years younger than me, and probably about 60 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
But he was still a good-sized dude, and that guy wiped the floors with me. I mean,
sure.
I felt like a mop.
Yeah, I mean, I go up against it in 10th Planet because it's such a different technique. And, I rolled with a kid. He's about 20 or 21 now. Great kid from Texas, trained at Gracie Barre. And he's a 2 or 3 stripe white belt when he came over here from Guy. And, I struggle with him. With him. I mean, he taps me. And here's the thing. He's about 180, 190, so he's in that dangerous weight size, you know what I mean, where he can play with the big boys. But he's still figuring it out. But when he still has enough strength and power. And again, I'm 37 myself. I'm not a kid. So it's like, when people start twisting and yanking on things, you feel it. So, it's a lot of fun. Jiu-jitsu is a great craft. If you find a good gym, and I know we talk about it a lot on here, and I've done a couple of 10th Planet podcasts. It's a great craft. Find a great gym. I'm excited to hear that you're a big proponent of it and practitioner. So, my hat's off to you. I'm not a giant fan of doing a lot of striking stuff because I tell people all the time striking doesn't look good on camera. And if you have to ever deploy a skill on the street, jiu-jitsu is great. The only downside of jiu-jitsu, which I don't like, is it makes you want to go to the ground a little too quick.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I'm going to do is, get in a bar fight or something like that, is trying to
go to the ground.
Yeah, to pull a De La Riva on some guy,
Yeah, so it's a lot of situational, guys, so don't look at jiu-jitsu as the cure-all. I know it's something I talk a lot about, as I'm sure you do. I tell everybody out there, it's not a cure-all. It's not a fix. So, expand your horizon, incorporate something. I love seeing shooters get into it. I actually gain a lot of respect for guys. And nobody's saying you got to go out and get brown belts and black belts. That's really a true calling to go and push it to that level. But
unless you got 10 years to set aside, then
you probably realistically. I was talking about this. My good friend Ruben Alvarez is a black belt, and of course people know my ex-girlfriend Leah Taylor is a black belt. And I've been around a lot of very highly skilled practitioners, as I'm sure you have. You probably have to dedicate 4 or 5 years in there of that belt journey to that craft. I mean, you can crawl your way to a blue, but there's going to be a window in there, whether between brown and purple. And I was talking about this with Mike, my coach now, and Casey Halstead, of course, at 10th Planet. There's going to be 4 or 5 years in there where you're going to have to dig deep, and you're going to be in there 3-4 days a week on the mats.
I've gotten really serious with this new school and stuff. It's completely different system that they're doing. Everything's really structured and everything's really good, and it's improved my game immensely. But so I started this whole thing about 5.5 years ago, and in that time frame, I've been hurt. I had to have knee surgery.
Wow.
I had 6 months off. So yeah, I mean, and I was hurt in spite of jiu-jitsu. I wasn't hurt because of jiu-jitsu. I was hurt in spite of it.
So through the years, you've incorporated this into your personal protection work, and your, what do you feel? You got to have some opinions on the industry, and you're probably a lot like me. You look at the 2A industry, you walk the floor at SHOT Show, you see the people. What do you think of this crop of folks coming back from overseas, people getting into the gun industry, a lot of the threeper crowd, the trendy crowd, the Kydex benders, what do you think of this crowd coming into the gun industry, and are you excited to see the purgings that we've seen in the last 6-8 months?
Yes and no, to a certain extent. I like seeing some of the younger guys coming back. I still look at them with a little bit of a jaundiced eye, and I want to see what they have to offer. I give them the benefit of the doubt 90% of the time, and sometimes they come from a really good background, really good pedigree. I'm really digging some of the younger guys that are leaving some of the SF units and stuff like that.
Some of the group guys.
Yeah, and they tend to have a really good balanced program. Some of the okay, I'm gonna really piss off the Navy guys right now.
Go ahead.
Care to train with the SEALs too much, but I like group guys, and I like the unit guys that came out of Delta and stuff. I've trained with more than a few of them. Guys that made a huge influence on me. I'm going to drop some names right now. Kyle M, Paul Howe, Dan Brokos, Pat McNamara. Now I'm going to say there's a SEAL that I really like training with, Jeff Gonzalez. There's been some other folks that come out of teams and stuff like that, and I'm really not a fan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I whispered a little bit on that.
There's I was the back end of your crowd, so I like to think of you as you have that early '90s to early 2000s crowd, and I'm a big fan of Pat's, friend of Pat. I mean, Pat and I are friendly. So I'm careful of it. Larry and I have met each other, and we've gone back and forth. And
I meant to say Larry Vickers in that as well.
And no, I figured you meant that class. Yeah, absolutely. And of course Kyle, who's at SIG now, doing some stuff, and he's been there for years. I came after, so I was more the Jim Irwin, the Dom Rosso, Tony Sentmanat at Real World, that crowd, and I've gravitated towards more of the kind of what Pat pioneered a little bit, but Tony perfected, which was the fitness meets firearms.
Absolutely.
In the training in the harsh conditions, and bringing that. Now, that's been going on for years. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. That's been going on for years, but bringing that to the forefront of civilian training. Yeah, right. So just so everybody knows and we're clear, that type of training has been going on, but there's been not a lot of guys, whether it's range permitting it, taboo, you haven't seen it out there. Right. Pat is more the extreme end where he's lifting bricks and he's using what he has and he's just doing what we call like the crazy functional fitness training. Right on. Tony brought it to the next level by bringing in fitness equipment, tires, and really incorporating the gym and not just being a bodybuilder, but developing a HIIT training that can go on the range and incorporating power movements. Right. And that's just something that the industry hadn't seen. Now, again, the next wave is what's going to be exciting, too, to see kind of who incorporates what. I know Tony's starting to bring jiu-jitsu and fighting into his classes, and Ruben Alvarez is a big component of that. Ruben's doing a lot of the ground and pound stuff with Tony's guys. So I think we're heading towards really exciting times in training. And, I think, this crop of guys, I can speak for the side of the house that, is – I think it's a love for firearms. But I think the ugly side or the dirty side is I think a lot of people do it because it's trendy.
Yeah, and there's a lot of folks out there that they think they can buy their way into tactical proficiency, meaning they want to buy all the Gucci gear, they want to buy the plate carriers, they want to buy the battle belts, they want to wear all this shit. Well, first of all, what McNamara is trying to do is get people
train how you fight
strong enough to carry all that shit. I mean, you can put all that stuff on, and you're probably functional for about an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours max, and then you start.
I think that's pushing it.
You start nosediving if you're not conditioned to carry all that stuff.
I've been down at trainings in Miami with Tony, and I think 3 hours is pushing it for a lot of people.
I was let me tell you a war story. So I was at a class once, and we had 2 tactical attorneys in the class, and they wanted to wear their plate carriers. They wanted to wear their cool stuff, and I was like, man, look, it's
you don't need that shit.
You don't need to wear that shit. We're giving you information. You don't need it. Well, we really want to wear it. Yeah. I go, okay, you put that stuff on. You don't take it off until we leave the range at 5 o'clock. And he was like, oh, okay. And they throw it on about an hour, hour and a half later, 2 hours max. And it's like, they're sweating bullets, man. It was down in
Oh, I've seen it many times. I've been down in Miami training with Tony, and I see guys pull like scars out of their bag and crazy stuff, and I'm like, put that away now. I'm like, you are never going to make it through. You won't be able to lift your arms. So, it's fun, and I think training's really important, and I think, I'll say this. I think we'll sum it up with this. There's a lot of gun collectors out there. There's a lot of people getting into the business because it's trendy and it's the cool thing to do. You want to, there's a lot of terms tossed around out there, stay in your lane, blah, blah. I use the term, you've either been in the huddle or you haven't. And if you get out there and you're training and you're developing your trade craft. That's why people have so much respect for Keanu in the John Wick movies. He practices his trade craft. And if you practice your trade craft and you get better at it, you're going to get respect, and people are going to respect you. Whether you were overseas or not, or whether you were a Leo or not for 10 years, I think you have to really take pride in being good. Nobody's going to question a Taron Butler who's never served a day in the military or a day in law enforcement. He can shoot his ass off. I wouldn't want to get in a gunfight with him.
No.
So,
I might run him around the range a little bit and get him gassed. And then try to
but he has an efficiency of movement, and he knows how to dial it in. He would be like one of my last choices. I think people have to realize that training and developing your trade craft in all facets, and getting good at all these different techniques, whether it's ground fighting, whether it's throwing punches, striking, whether it's grappling or shooting, it's going to make you better as a whole. It's going to weaponize your entire body.
Absolutely.
Get to that place.
And it makes you a better person. It makes you a stronger person. I mean, you want to know a challenge? When my wife comes back from Costco, emptying out the car, man. I mean, there's pallets of water, there's bags of dog food. It's a workout getting that stuff inside the house.
Oh yeah. So you had the opportunity. I'm excited to talk about this, and we're going to get to the ammo. We're going to get to some other stuff. You had the opportunity to kind of visit the facility. I know you've been here before, and you've worked with the crew for years.
Actually, this is the first time here.
First time here.
Yeah.
In this building, or
Okay. And I've known the folks here a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Long time, 10 plus years. But yeah.
So let me ask you, what do you think of the Arsenal product?
There's I like Century better. I'm lying.
Wow, that's grounds to get you removed.
I didn't go.
Oh, the peanut gallery, the production crew's yelling in.
Anyway, okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I've done this before. I've done this a million times. I do AK specific classes, AK centric classes. And people are always saying, hey, man, I don't have an AK. I want to get an AK. What one should I get? And I'm always like, okay, spend your money once, spend it wisely, get an Arsenal. That's what I tell folks.
So why AKs?
Well, let's go back to that October 25th, 1983, alongside a runway in Grenada. The Cubans did the 100-yard dash, the Havana 100-yard dash, which is they went from their fatigue uniforms to whatever civilian clothes they could find and drop their web gear, helmets, AKs in that 100-yard span. And it was only 10 years since our involvement in Vietnam, from 73 to 83. But a lot of know-how and a lot of brain drain left the Army in that time.
Right.
We had a few senior NCOs and flag officers that were Vietnam veterans and stuff, but we never trained on the AK. One, how to make it safe and make sure it's unloaded, and how to render it useless. We weren't trained on that, and we found stuff. I mean, literally laying all over the place, AKs everywhere, in every sort of condition, loaded, unloaded, what have you. And we had more than a couple instances where guys were trying to unload them, whatever, and ended up, sending a round off somewhere and hitting their buddy or something like that, So I tried to learn as much about the platform as possible. And in all honesty, I think back to those days when I was in the Army. If you would have told me that I would have gone to Russia, gone to school, met Kalashnikov on like 4 or 5 separate occasions, I would say, you're smoking some ganja, bro. There's no way. I'm not going to do that. I've done it, man. Done it. It's amazing. So.
Yeah, it's a crazy journey, but the AK platform is very intriguing. Crispy was in here the other day, Omar Avila, and he said to me, he goes, I want to start doing more stuff with AKs. I think right now, as far as the industry goes, I think the industry's thirsty for something different, and I think it's the first time in 25 or 30 years that the AK is starting to come into its own, and people are starting to say, I got 1 million ARs in the case. Let me go get an AK. Let me mess around with that. Let me do something different.
Well, necessity breeds innovation. That's the way that I look at it. So when I did my first contract in Iraq, I was there for 18 months. We had every sort of AR that you could imagine.
Right.
But our belt feds were PKMs. So, we had a big support system there in Iraq. We had everything. And whenever I got to Afghanistan to do a contract there, I was in eastern Afghanistan, Jalalabad Airfield, and I ran the Afghan security guards there. I was promised the Magic Connex. This Magic Connex is going to be there. You're going to have an M4 with night vision, PEC 2s, and all this stuff. And I'm like, right on. It didn't happen.
Right.
I get there. I have 150 Afghan security guards. And they said, well, okay, now your weapons are going to be showing up in a container in about 2 weeks. Well, 2 weeks definitely showed up. Here's the container. I remember opening up this container, and about 3 foot of ocean water comes out. And in the center was piled AKs. That had been underwater for about 60 days. And so we had every sort of AK imaginable. There was East German, Bulgarian, Polish, Soviet. Even some Iraqi tabuks were in there. And so I remember looking at this, and there was like crustaceans growing on these things. They'd been underwater for so long. And I remember my little Afghan captain, he's like, hey, man, no worries. We fix it up. And out of nowhere, I don't know where the hell it came from, a 55-gallon drum filled with diesel shows up. And they start dipping the AKs in this diesel, and they're getting rocks. And you ever seen Afghani AKs? They look silver and shit. It's because they scrubbed all the finish off of them. And they got them all up and running. Within a day, they got it all up and running.
And they just run.
They ran. The AK that I had in Afghanistan was a Type 1 made in 1956 in Ijevsk. Yeah, it was an amazing gun.
It's crazy. It's exciting to see what they're doing here and having the opportunity, the last few weeks to shoot some of the products, train on some of the products, participate in some of the range days here. I'm really excited to see where the AK market is and where it's going, because I feel like more so than the AR market, there's room for growth. Like I was saying to Crispy the other day, even 10 years ago, it was crazy to say I'm going to suppress an AK.
Yeah.
It was crazy. The only guy doing it was Jim Fuller, Rifle Dynamics. Jim was like, you had to go there to get a suppressed AK. It just wasn't happening. So I feel like now what Arsenal's doing, really one of the most underrated things they're doing, is they're making suppressed AKs mainstream and easier to purchase. And now that brings us to the ammo. So you've been working on this for a while, and I'm excited about this.
Yeah, you and me both, bro.
I got a chance to shoot it.
And?
It's amazing. And there'll be some video coming out. Omar got a chance to shoot it. This stuff is really amazing. 7.62 by 39 subsonic ammunition, and it's affordable as fuck.
Well, okay, let's regress a little bit.
Yeah, take me back.
We were in Germany in Nuremberg at the IWA show. So the folks from Arsenal were over there. Are we allowed to say names? Can we say who it is?
Yeah.
Oh, the folks from Arsenal, anyway. They put the bug in my ear. They put the bug in our ear. And I approached the factory the next day. I said, hey, is there a possibility of you guys doing this? Can you guys make this subsonic? Well, we don't have any information about this. And I said, hey, look, the Soviet Union made subsonic 7.62 by 39 in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
So it's been done.
It's been done. And they're like, well, we don't have any of that data. Well, I had that data at my disposal, and I provided them, a Russian factory, with old Soviet load data on subsonic that they did back then. And, you know, it's always a joke. The Russians always think that I work for the CIA. Americans always think I work for the KGB. Well, I don't work for either because none of their checks are cashing. They're bouncing.
Right.
And so anyway, when I supplied the Russians with their own Soviet data, they're like, absolutely, they thought I was agency then, you know, for sure. But it took a while for them to, you know, like.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they're all like, oh yeah, you're CIA, obviously. And anyway, so that was like 5 years ago. It took a while to get it. The first couple of samples that we got wasn't quite there, and I was working really closely with their engineer, their chief engineer, to get what the bullet weight needed to be, to get what the velocity needed to be, so that it would function a semi-automatic weapon, and still cycle with or without a can. Mm-hmm. It needed to do both, with or without a can. And like I said, 5 years later, bam, here we are. Look at that right there.
And it's affordable.
It's affordable.
That's the key.
It's affordable. It's, you know, there's other offerings out there, right? There's definitely other offerings.
Oh, yeah.
Detroit, Angle, whatever else is out there that's made domestically. Man, that shit's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, bam, $3, bam, $3, you know?
Yeah. It was some of them I looked up a few. They were like $40 a box.
Oh, man, that's going to be nice, though. I'm really excited about this. I mean, I get really giddy, and I'm so thankful to be here and be able to talk to folks about this stuff.
So you go through this crazy journey, and you have all these experiences, and you have all this you know, background behind the scenes. Did you ever have a hunger to be a front of the scenes guy, or be like a Larry, or?
Well, this is about as in front of everything as I've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy watching other folks, but I like doing stuff behind the scenes, being the gray dude. You know, I like doing this sort of thing. You know, notoriety. Enough people know me. I mean, there's a lot.
The right people.
Yeah, the right people know me. There's a lot of folks out there that know me. I mean, I get approached every SHOT Show, like, "Hey, man, I really enjoy your stuff." You know, on various forums and stuff like that. And the first thing I always ask, like, did I piss you off on the internet? Did I insult you?
Well, you've done some writing and stuff, so you got some
bit.
stuff out there.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, I bring it up because there's a huge thirst. Obviously, you know, some people have money, they want fame. Some people have fame, they want money. And there's a huge thirst right now with the birth of social media and things like that. People want to be known. They want to be.
People can be instant famous.
They want to be instant famous. Yeah. And you know, Q and I have been through this. You try to explain to people, like, you don't want that. You think you want that, but you don't want that. Yeah. And it comes, and it's a byproduct sometimes. Like myself, it was a byproduct of an accident. Because what happened was, when I was working for media departments when I first started out, and, you know, I was working with Enforced Lights, Breakthrough Clean. I'm actually wearing, that's the obnoxious green I'm wearing today. But, you know, they didn't have anybody else. Like, when it was time to roll the camera, because social media had become this big thing, right. They said, well, who's going to hold the gun? And they were like, oh, John, just get up there and just go do it. You know how to run it. Or just get up there and talk. So I had to learn on the fly how to be like, hey, you know, and do the thing. So I was learning on the fly on ranges because social media had just become something. You know, companies came to me and they said, hey, will you do some demos for us? And I was like, what the fuck is a demo? I had no idea what they were talking about. And they were like, well, you just go out there, you know, and you know, we'll give you the passcode to our stuff. And I'm like, passcode to what? Mm-hmm. You know, and they're like, just go get some pictures or go get some media. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, you know, I started out and there was just Facebook, and then Instagram came in, and everybody was running around and kind of chasing it. Mm-hmm. And along the way, all I was doing was chronicling my life. I was just putting photos up there. And, you know, before long, it led to this, and it led to the next thing. And then before I knew it, I was in charge of a rifle company, and then, it led to the next thing. So I had the opportunity to get out there and meet a lot of people. But what I didn't expect was the amount of bullshit that comes along with it. And I wasn't fully prepared for it at first. And I haven't, you know, got into this that deep on a podcast, but people think they want that. And, you know, people think because they own a holster company, they're you. Yeah. You know, and I don't mean to put you on a pedestal, but some of the things you've done, if you read about this guy, it's amazing. And, you've had the opportunity to do all these great things behind the scenes, but never once did you want to put yourself out there like that.
You know, honestly,
It's a humble quality.
In the last, what is it? It's June, so 6 months. In the last 6 months, I've been thrown into a social media environment 2 occasions, and that's the most that I've ever done in my life. At the IWA show in Nuremberg in March, a Russian YouTuber came up and he's like, "Hey man, we would like to put a mic on you, follow you around the show. You talk about some stuff." And well, for how long? Well, however long you want. And I was like, I literally thought he was going to come with like a GoPro, and he's in his mom's basement or something, and he's got like 20 followers or something like that. No, this guy's got like over 100,000 followers throughout the United States and in Russia. So as soon as he put the mic on, man, I started sweating. I was like sweating like a hooker in church, man. And but I just acted myself, and I walked around and at the end of the podcast, I was thinking, man, did I fuck that up? I looked like an asshole. But these guys made me look really good, and they edited, they put in music, they put in other video and stuff like that. And when my wife saw it, she was like, "Holy shit, this is my husband. He really looks good." And it made me look really good.
Yeah, I mean, look, you remind me so much. It's funny, I brought the name up before. You remind me of Bruce Cardenas at Quest Bar. He's the chief communications officer. He was there from the infancy. When I had Bruce on my podcast, a lot of people were like, "Oh, a fucking nutrition guy. Oh, you're having a guy." And people didn't realize he was Marine Corps, 18 years LAPD, and then went on to have his own private security company in L.A. And how he got hooked in a Quest Bar was by chance. He met the founders, and the founders were making bars in their house, and he just, kind of got behind it and just started brand building and put it in people's hands. So when I had him on to tell a story and his background with the NRA and how deep he was in that L.A. private security business, I mean, he was on the ground, boots on the ground when OJ went down. So he had a wealth of experience, and he had a ton of knowledge. And he passed that knowledge on to what? Volume? You can't hear him? Talk closer into the mic because they can't hear.
Sorry about that.
Can you hear him now?
What about now? Yep, good.
Good? So we'll get a little. Make sure you guys, if you can't hear Yancy, chime in on the comments. But yeah, I mean, he had such a wealth of knowledge, and when I brought him on the podcast and he told this story, you could just see like everybody who had shit to say just was like, whew, it was like oxygen left their body. And people don't realize I love the behind the scenes guys. I love the guys that nobody sees, nobody hears from, and then they tell their story and the influence they had on the industry. And I'm a big believer of leave it better than you found it.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, leave it better than you found it.
Yeah.
Whether it's, I don't care if it's jiu-jitsu, I don't care if it's taking a shit, leave the toilet better than how you found it. And that's what I'm a big proponent of, and that's what I'm a giant fan of, because if you don't leave it better than you found it, you're leaving it worse.
Yeah. Well, I believe that knowledge is key. I know a thing or two, but I don't brag about it, and I don't try to put my name or label stuff that's been hashed over 1,000 times and say,
right,
this is what I created. I get stuff from a lot of people. I get information from a lot of people. I get a lot of experiences from a lot of people, from a lot of things. Do I try to label it and say, this is mine, this is the Harrington technique, this is the Yancey technique? No, I don't. But I try to be humble, and I try to let folks know, this is what I would do, this is what I do. Hopefully it works for you. If it doesn't, discard it, move on to the next thing. Try to glean, try to get something. I try to be useful, and I try to keep my reputation. I've done some stuff out there I'm not really proud of, but
haven't we all?
But anyway, I try to leave it better than it was.
Yeah, and I think our president's proven. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
There's no, I think the days of the perfect candidate, and I say candidate, whether it's those days are over. I mean, it's, everything's out there. And I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, how do you feel that you're out there now with social media? I'm like, I let people see what I want them to see. I'm like, there's also strength in being in the public, because you hide in plain sight, so to speak.
Yeah.
You let people see what you want them to see. Now, I'm excited about this ammo project. You're excited about the ammo project. I'm excited that we're going to be distributing this product, and we're the exclusive.
Absolutely.
We're the exclusive on this.
Yeah.
So 7.62 by 39 subsonic ammunition combined with all the things that Arsenal's doing here with the AK platform, distributed through KVAR, right? KVAR is distributing the ammo. So, you know, if you guys get the opportunity to check this stuff out, head over to kvar.com and give it a look, because this stuff is amazing. And I believe, you know, the industry, I want to say, hasn't seen anything at this price point, at this level of efficiency, and it's really exciting. It's really awesome to have you in studio to talk about it and the journey that it took to get here, and having the ability to carry it. Yeah. So I'm pumped up about it. You got a chance to shoot some of the guns downstairs. I know you shot some Secret Squirrel stuff. Yeah. Without getting into the secret sauce and the G14 classified stuff, how exciting is it to come here and test some of the goodies that are coming?
Okay, so I live in Tucson, just outside of Tucson, a little village called Vail. And what's great about living in Tucson, it's 55 minutes to fly to Vegas. So, you know, I should have been here long ago.
Right.
I just never got a chance to do it. So the good folks that own this place invited me up last week. Boom, bought a ticket. Here I am today. So exciting. I mean, I was excited beyond belief to like come in and see what y'all are doing here, see some of the new products and stuff like that. And saying that I was blown away by what I saw would be putting it mildly. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, you know, when I came up here, and I've been here for a few weeks myself, and met the team and got an opportunity to kind of start to show them some of my media techniques and the things that I wanted to do and bring in. And I saw the facility, the bones they had. I was like, holy cow. I'm like, we could do great things here. And I think the combination is going to be a tough one to beat. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we'll be able to create a lot of really cool stuff. I'm pumped up about it, and the guest list and everybody coming in. And I got to say right off the bat, I mean, following Crispy with a guy like you, and then, you know, leading into, we got Michelle Viscuzzi on Friday, which is going to be really cool. You know, I'm excited about it. Going to try to get Jim Fuller in. I know he's on the docket. I'm just super excited, and I think we're going to have the opportunity to create a lot of really cool stuff and have a lot of fun. What do you think of some of the media stuff we're doing and pushing into podcasting and some of the streaming stuff?
Man, I have to say that I've never seen a company that had a media department like this. I mean, y'all have a full-on studio here.
Yeah.
There's a full-on studio here.
Oh, yeah.
And there's, like, guys that used to work, you know, in big media places.
Yep.
And, like, I mean, you run the show pretty darn good here, bro. I mean, like, you're kind of fun to talk with. You know?
I think it's on the verge of being really good.
Yeah. So let me drop this thing on you.
Go ahead.
In the future, like I said, Tucson's only 55 minutes away. I can come up anytime, bro. We can do shit. We can do this again. We can do whatever.
Make sure you're talking to the mic. You're still squawking. You gotta like look right into it.
How about now?
Better. So you can see it right here. Jump if you see when mine jumps. So
Okay.
You know, I'm game. You know, you can come up whenever you want. You have an open invite whenever you want to. Come on down, you know, by all means, you have an open invite here. You don't need to hear that from me. I'm sure the brain trust here has already told you. But I'm excited about what the media could be and what we could create and where it can go. I think we're going to have tremendous guests on. I think we're going to get tremendous hands on the product. I love seeing people's reaction when they shoot some of the stuff, especially the shotgun that's coming. You know, the ammo, the subsonic ammo is definitely turning a lot of people's heads and getting a lot of people engaged. It's going to be a fun time to be here, and I'm just really excited to not be, you know, stuck in the trap of just having ARs. It's going to be fun to be doing AKs, the pistols, the Rex line, and now having ammo come in that's unique and fun and new and just something different. I mean, you had to see Crispy's level of excitement. He ordered a can the minute he was sitting here. He was like, I'm going to get canned for this. So it's awesome. I think, you know, you can come anytime you want. I'm glad to have you. I'm glad to have met you and spent some time rapping with you. I think the team here is going to be excited to have you up maybe as a regular guest, or maybe we can get you in a couple of months and hear more of your backstory and get into that, because I'd love to hear more of that. Before we part, I know there's a lot of people out there that might have some questions. What's the best place to find you? I know you have a little training company too.
Yeah.
What's the best place to find the training company, and what's the best place to access you? Is it email? Is it DM? Where can people find you?
Man, anywhere. You can email me. Give my email address.
Go ahead, give it.
Yeah, it's Yancey, Y-A-N-C-E-Y, Harrington @gmail.com. I got a little training company. Generally, I was trying to do it for a while, like putting stuff up on social media, putting a schedule up. Problem is, in Arizona, a lot of folks already think they know how to shoot, and so I was.
That's a separate podcast, Yancey.
That's a separate podcast.
That's a whole
bro.
separate
That's
podcast.
A separate podcast. I would put something up on the schedule and hope that I would fill the class and make enough money to pay for the range and stuff like that. Lately, what I've been doing is I've been doing agency and or military unit training. I get
Mainly on the AK.
On the AK and foreign weapons familiarization. But yeah, AK centric. But I've been running for the last 2 years. I've been running classes out here in Nellis Air Force Base for pararescue and other folks on AKs and stuff like that and foreign weapons. And those are some smart guys, man. I got to tell you. I mean, the Air Force guys are a lot smarter than us Army guys, I got to tell you.
Right.
Yeah. But I really enjoy training. I enjoy, giving information out to folks, and talking about stuff and getting people to know about stuff. A lot of folks walk away from my class and say, man, I never knew that.
Right.
And I'm just really thankful to be able to impart this information.
And before I let you slide out of here, because I know you got a ton of activities today with the team, give me your top 3 misconceptions about the AK and how to fix them, whether it's through training or things that are out there or people know. I know we know it's durable as fuck, but what are your top 3 misconceptions about the AK you want to debunk?
Good friend of mine, Paul Gomez, rest in peace, brother, would say, water is wet, AKs are sharp, always wear eye protection, and always wear hearing protection. That's what he always said.
Right.
A lot of folks think that an AK is a 4-inch MOA weapon at 100. I don't know what they're shooting, but it's capable of a lot better accuracy than that.
A lot better.
A lot better. And a lot of folks think that also, an AK will never malfunction. It's a man-made item. It'll malfunction still. You maintain it. You keep it lubricated. You keep it somewhat clean. It'll run forever. You put good ammo in it. It's like nutrition, brother. Garbage in, garbage out. Good stuff in, good stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as long as you shoot our ammo, you're going to be good to go.
So as long as you shoot the 7.62x39 subsonic.
Yeah. Or the other bare ammunition products.
Yeah. Shameless plugs. So while we're on shameless plugs, again, before I cut you loose, anything else you want to plug or anything else you want to get into?
Man, no, but I just want to say that I'm really thankful for you having me up
Of
here
course.
and having me in front of this mic now that everybody can hear me. I've never done this before.
Yeah, you gotta go right into it. These are very sensitive mics. They're very,
This is really fun, man. This is really fun.
No, good. I'm glad you had fun. I'm glad you got to tour the facility, see some of the stuff, and get to shoot some of the double secret squirrel stuff, G14 classified. So I appreciate everyone. I want to thank everyone at kvar.com, and I want to thank the whole production team. I want to thank everybody, Q, Mel, everyone, Dave, and everyone who helps makes this possible. And make sure you head over to kvar.com. Make sure you check out the ammunition, the 7.62x39 subsonic, the bare ammunition. Give it a look. You're going to find that it's very smartly priced, and it's phenomenal stuff, guys. If you're thinking of putting a can on an AK and you're thinking of getting an AK with a can on it, definitely check out the Arsenal product. It's right out of the box ready. They come almost all the entire line comes can ready now. Check it out. The days of having to get $2,000 worth of work done to your AK to get it run a can are over. Yeah. Make sure you check this stuff out. It runs whether it's canned or not, which is really important. And make sure you guys take something away from this. I think Yancey hit a lot of really good points I emphasize on a day-to-day basis here. Make sure you're out there training. Make sure you're taking the time. Make sure you're familiarizing yourself with all the training that you can, and don't be a gun collector. Yeah. Well, we need collectors, but don't be, take a class.
Yeah. I mean, you'll enjoy your product so much more. I mean, spend a couple of bucks and get some training.
I agree.
Yeah.
So we're going to sign off here. I want to thank everybody and taking the time, and I want to thank you, Yancey. I really appreciate it. Of course. And everyone have a great week, and we'll have Michelle Viscusi tomorrow. Just sign off.